It was a bright summer morning in a peaceful camping ground by the forest. Families were setting up their tents, children were laughing, and the smell of food cooking filled the air. Everyone was relaxed and happy. But among all the campers, there was one who stood a little apart, a tall man named Tom. He was quiet, strong, and had a serious look in his eyes. Beside him was a large German shepherd named Max. Tom had brought Max to the camp hoping the fresh air would help him calm down. Max was not like other dogs. He had been rescued from a rough life a few weeks ago. He had scars on his body and fear in his eyes. He didn't trust people easily, and loud sounds made him nervous. Tom was patient with him, but Max was still learning what it meant to be safe and loved. At first, things were fine. Max stayed close to Tom, walking slowly, sniffing around the trees. But as the day went on, the camp got louder. Kids ran around playing tag, people were laughing, and someone started playing loud music. The smell of grilled meat and smoke filled the air. To most, it was just another happy afternoon. But for Max, the noise, smells, and sudden movements were too much. His ears twitched, his body stiffened, and a deep growl came from his chest. Tom noticed it right away. He tried to calm him down, gently rubbing his back and speaking softly. "Easy, boy. It's okay. You're safe here." But Max's breathing got faster. The sounds and movements reminded him of the place he came from, where people had been rough with him. The memories were too strong. Suddenly, with one powerful jerk, he pulled the leash from Tom's hand and ran. The camp turned into chaos. People shouted and ran for cover. Someone dropped a pan, another tripped over a chair. A little boy started crying. Max barked loudly, circling the camp, knocking over a few coolers and chairs as he moved. He wasn't trying to hurt anyone, he was scared and confused. But to the people, it looked dangerous. "Call animal control," someone shouted. "Get the kids inside the tents," another voice yelled. Tom ran after Max, calling his name again and again. "Max, stop. Come here, buddy." But Max didn't listen. His tail was stiff, his eyes wild with fear. Every loud sound made him bark louder. Tom's heart raced. He knew Max wasn't violent, just terrified. But how could he explain that to everyone screaming? Near the campfire stood a small girl, maybe 6 years old. Her name was Lily. She had big brown eyes and short hair tied with a ribbon. She was there with her parents, and she had been quietly watching everything. When the dog ran wild, her mother grabbed her hand, but Lily slipped free. "Lily, no. Come back." Her mother screamed, her voice shaking. But the little girl didn't stop. She saw something the others didn't. While everyone else saw a dangerous animal, she saw a frightened one. She saw how Max's body trembled, how his eyes looked lost and sad. She took a deep breath and started walking toward him slowly. Tom froze. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. "No, don't move," he shouted. "He's scared." But the girl kept walking. The camp went silent. Even the birds seemed to stop singing. Lily stopped a few feet away from Max. She didn't reach out right away. She just crouched down, making herself small and calm. Her voice was soft and gentle when she spoke. "It's okay, boy. You're not bad. You're just scared, aren't you?" Max stopped barking. His ears twitched at the sound of her voice. He tilted his head, breathing fast, still unsure. The little girl stayed still. She didn't look scared. Her hands stayed open and low. "It's okay," she whispered again. "You're not in trouble. Nobody will hurt you." Tom's eyes filled with tears. He had tried for weeks to make Max trust him, and now here was a little girl doing it without fear. Slowly, Max took one step toward her, then stopped. His tail moved just a little. Lily smiled softly. "Good boy," she said. "See? I'm not going to hurt you." Someone behind them whispered, "She's crazy. That dog's dangerous." But Tom shook his head quickly. "No, he's scared. Just scared." Max took another step closer. His breathing slowed down. His growl faded. He looked at Lily's calm face, then at her hands. She didn't move fast or loud. She just stayed there, quiet and steady. Finally, he came close enough to sniff her hand. The girl giggled a little. "See? You're just a big softy." She gently touched the top of his head. Max didn't move away. His body relaxed for the first time that day. The campers who had been hiding peeked out of their tents. A few gasped, others clapped softly. Tom walked closer, slowly, afraid to break the magic moment. He kneeled beside them and reached for Max's collar. "Good boy," he whispered. "You did so well." Then he looked at the little girl and said, "You've got a brave heart, kiddo." Lily smiled shyly and said, "He wasn't being bad. He was just scared." Tom nodded. "You're right." People started coming back out, whispering about what had happened. A few apologized for yelling. The ranger who had called animal control canceled the call. Everyone was still amazed at how a small child had done what adults couldn't. Later that evening, as the campfire glowed under the stars, Tom brought Max near Lily's family. The dog sat quietly beside him, calm and peaceful. Lily reached out and stroked his fur again. He leaned against her leg, tail moving gently. Her father smiled and said, "Looks like you made a new friend." Lily nodded proudly. He just needed someone to tell him it's okay. Tom couldn't stop smiling. That night, when he put Max to sleep beside him, he whispered, "See, buddy? Not everyone's scary. That little girl showed you that." Max looked at him with soft eyes, then rested his head on Tom's lap. The next morning, the camp was full of peace again. Children played, birds sang, and the air smelled of breakfast. Max walked beside Tom quietly, tail wagging. When Lily waved from her tent, Max barked once, softly, like he was saying thank you. Everyone who had seen the event would remember it for a long time. They called it the day the little girl calmed the beast. But those who had been close enough knew the truth. There had never been a beast, only a frightened heart waiting for a little kindness. And that's how a brave little girl reminded an entire camp that sometimes the gentlest voice can do what shouting never could. She taught them that fear doesn't always need control. It sometimes just needs understanding. That morning, as the sun rose higher and the camp came back to life, Tom looked at Lily from a distance and whispered, "Thank you." He didn't know it then, but that simple act of courage would change both his and Max's life forever. Everyone at the camp was still talking about what had happened. People couldn't stop looking at the little girl who had walked right up to the big, scared German shepherd and calmed him down. Some said it was a miracle. Others just said it was something special, something they would never forget. Tom sat by the campfire that evening, staring at the flames, thinking about how close everything had come to going wrong. Max was sleeping quietly beside him, his head resting on his paws. Every once in a while, his tail moved when he heard Lily's soft laughter nearby. Tom smiled. He hadn't seen Max this calm since he rescued him. The dog had always been restless and full of fear, but now he seemed different, lighter somehow. When Lily and her parents came to sit by the fire, Max lifted his head and wagged his tail gently. Lily smiled and came closer, asking, "Can I pet him again?" Tom nodded. "Of course, sweetheart. I think he likes you more than anyone else here." She sat down beside Max and stroked his fur. He leaned against her leg and sighed deeply, like he had finally found peace. Her mother watched nervously at first, but when she saw how relaxed both the dog and the girl looked, she relaxed too. The stars were bright that night, and the only sound was the quiet crackle of the fire and the soft breathing of Max. Tom told him how he had found Max. He said he was part of a rescue team that took in abandoned animals. Max had been in a shelter for months. No one wanted him because he looked fierce and barked whenever someone got close. He wasn't mean, Tom said softly. He was just hurt and scared. I saw something in his eyes, like he wanted to trust, but didn't know how. Lily listened carefully. She looked at Max and said, "I know that feeling. When people don't trust you, even if you didn't do anything bad." Her parents looked at her, surprised. "At my old school, some kids didn't want to play with me because I was shy," she continued. "But then one girl talked to me, and I wasn't scared anymore." Tom smiled and said, "Then you and Max are a lot alike. You both needed someone brave enough to see the truth." Lily giggled and hugged Max around his neck. "Then I'll be his friend forever." The next morning, when the sun rose over the trees, the camp came alive again. People cooked breakfast and packed their bags, but the talk was still about the little girl and the dog. Even the park rangers came by to see Max. They were amazed to see how calm he was. One of them said, "I can't believe this is the same dog from yesterday. He's like a different animal." Tom nodded proudly. "That's because someone showed him kindness instead of fear." Before Lily's family left, Tom walked over to them with Max by his side. "I wanted to say thank you," he said to her parents. "Your daughter did something truly amazing. She reminded me why I rescue dogs in the first place." He turned to Lily and smiled. "You're a real hero. You know that?" Lily laughed shyly. "I'm not a hero. I just didn't want him to be alone." Tom knelt down to her level and said, "That's exactly what makes you one." Max stepped closer and nudged her hand with his nose. She giggled and gave him one last hug. Tom could see the bond between them was real. Max, who once trembled at every sound, now stood still and peaceful beside her. It was like she had given him a new heart. After Lily's family left, Tom and Max stayed at the camp for another week. Each day, Max became more confident. He played fetch, walked calmly with other campers, and even let children pet him without fear. It was a huge change. People who had been afraid of him before now smiled and waved whenever they saw him. One afternoon, as Tom was sitting by the lake watching the sunset, an older ranger came up and said, "You know, that dog of yours could help others one day. Maybe in hospitals or schools. Therapy dogs, they call them. Calming people who are scared or lonely." Tom looked down at Max, who was lying at his feet. "You really think he could do that?" The ranger nodded. "After what I saw that little girl do, I believe anything's possible." That night, Tom couldn't stop thinking about it. Maybe Max's story wasn't just about healing himself. It could be about helping others heal too. He decided then and there that he would train Max to become a therapy dog. It would be a long road, but he believed in him. After all, if a little girl could bring out the good in Max, then there was no limit to what he could become. Months passed, and Max trained every day. He learned how to stay calm around strangers, how to comfort people, and how to visit hospitals and schools without fear. His gentle eyes and quiet presence made everyone feel safe. Tom often told the story of how it all began, how one brave girl had walked up to a frightened dog when no one else would. A year later, Tom and Max were invited to visit a children's hospital. Max wore a small blue vest with the words "therapy dog" on it. The first room they entered was full of kids who were sick and tired of being in bed. Some looked scared, others sad. But the moment Max walked in, tails wagging and eyes kind, their faces lit up. Tom smiled and said softly, "Go ahead, he's friendly." One little boy reached out and touched Max's fur. Another girl giggled as he licked her hand. The room that had felt so heavy before suddenly filled with laughter and warmth. Nurses and doctors watched with smiles. Tom felt proud, but his thoughts drifted back to that day at the camp the day everything changed. He remembered Lily's calm voice, her brave steps, and her gentle hands reaching out to a scared soul. He wished he could see what her kindness had started. Later, when they left the hospital, Tom sat beside Max and said, "You did good, buddy. You made them smile, just like she made you smile." Max looked up at him and wagged his tail. A few weeks later, Tom got a letter in the mail. It was from Lily's parents. Inside was a photo of Lily holding a drawing she made of herself standing next to Max at the camp. Under it, she had written, "My friend Max, the dog who learned to trust." Tom smiled, tears filling his eyes. He placed the picture on his desk where he could see it every day. Years later, people still remembered the story. Campers who had been there told others about the little girl who had stopped a frightened dog with just kindness. And whenever someone said animals can't understand love, Tom would smile and say, "Then you never met Max or the little girl who showed him what love really means." Max lived a long, happy life, helping children and comforting people everywhere he went. Every time Tom looked into his loyal eyes, he saw Lily's courage shining there. The story of that day became more than just a memory. It became a lesson. No matter how big the fear, kindness can always find a way through it. Sometimes, the smallest person can make the biggest change, and a gentle hand can calm even the loudest storm.